My breath caught in my throat as the weight of Isabella's words hit me. Pregnant? The idea seemed both impossible and inevitable at the same time. Kela and I had been together, but with everything happening, the possibility of her being pregnant hadn't crossed my mind. Pregnant? I repeated, my voice a whisper of disbelief. But how? With everything going on, I didn't even consider. Isabella's eyes softened as she saw the shock on my face. It makes sense now, she said gently. The glow you saw, the fainting, the voice. It could all be connected to the pregnancy. Sometimes, alpha baby pregnancies can trigger unexpected abilities or reactions, especially in the early stages. I ran a hand through my hair trying to process the new information. But why would a voice tell her to stop Damien? And why now? Isabella sighed, her expression thoughtful. That I can't explain yet. It could be a manifestation of her protective instincts, heightened by the pregnancy. Or it could be something more mystical, tied to the unique nature of your bond. I nodded, absorbing her words. So what do we do now? First, we need to ensure Kela's safety and health, Isabella said firmly. She needs to rest and be monitored closely. I'll stay with her and keep an eye on her condition. As for you, we need to keep this information to ourselves for now. If Zach or any other threat finds out, it could put her and the baby in even more danger. I nodded, the gravity of the situation settling heavily on my shoulders. Understood. Thank you, Isabella, I said, my voice filled with gratitude. I'll go check on the others and make sure everything is secure. Let me know if anything changes. As I walked away, my mind raced with thoughts of Kela and the child inside her. The weight of my responsibilities felt even heavier now, knowing that I had more than just the pack to protect. I needed to stay vigilant, especially with the threat of Damien still looming. Back outside, I found the injured pack members being tended to by a few others, who had taken over from Isabella. They were doing their best to keep spirits high and ensure everyone was comfortable. I approached one of the older members, Mace, who was overseeing the efforts. How's everyone holding up? I asked, my voice steady. Mace looked up, his expression grim but resolute. We're managing, Alpha. The injuries are serious, but thanks to Isabella's magic, they'll recover. We just need to stay on guard. Damien won't give up easily. I know, I replied, my tone firm. We need to tighten our defenses and ensure everyone is prepared for his return. Have you seen any suspicious activity or anyone acting out of the ordinary? Mace shook his head. Nothing yet, but we'll keep our eyes open. As I was about to add to Mace's comment, a mocking voice cut through the air, dripping with disdain. And who do we blame here for all this? Who do we blame for putting the pack through this hell? Zach stepped forward, his sneer etched deep into his face. Of course it's you, Alpha. Why do we have to go through a war for something we didn't do, just because you're the Alpha? I turned to face him, my gaze hardening. What are you talking about, Zach? If you have something to say it clearly. Zach's eyes flashed with anger and frustration. You know exactly what I mean. Ever since you took over as Alpha, we've faced nothing but threats and battles. Now with Damien breathing down our necks, we're risking our lives for a fight that shouldn't be ours. How many wars have I put you through, Zach? I shot back, my voice rising. Can you count them for me, please? Or should I start listing the troubles you and your men have caused us, should I? Zach's face twisted in anger as he stepped closer, cutting me off sharply. Don't change the topic, Ralph. We're talking about Damien, whose witch of a wife you killed. Because you couldn't keep your pants close, we're facing his wrath once again, tasting another bitter consequence of your leadership. From my perspective, it looks like Damien returned for the human to do exactly what you did to his wife. I stepped forward, my fists clenched at his words. Don't you dare bring Kela into this, I growled, my voice low and dangerous. Zach's sneer deepened. Why not? She's just a human, isn't she? Anger surged through me, hot and furious. Before I could stop myself, my hand shot out, connecting with his jaw in a sharp punch. "Don't you ever speak of her like that again," I growled, my voice laced with menace. "She is my mate, and I will not tolerate your disrespect." Zach's face contorted with rage, and before I could react, he shifted and lunged forward. Instinctively, I shifted as well, meeting his challenge head-on. The air crackled with tension as our wolves faced off, snarling and snapping at each other. The pack around us backed away, sensing the impending clash between us. Mace and the others watched anxiously, ready to intervene if necessary. Zach's wolf eyes blazed with fury as he circled me, looking for an opening. "You think you're so righteous, Ralph," he growled through the mind link. "But you're just as guilty as Damien. You took his wife from him, just like you took my alpha position. If you want to play the hero, then hand over the human to him. What do you lose, after all? She's just a human, someone you want to get rid of anyway." I bared my teeth in a silent snarl, my muscles coiled with tension. "Kela is not just a human," I countered, my voice low and dangerous. "She is my mate, and I will protect her with my life. Whoever wants her will have to go through me first." With a primal roar, Zach launched himself at me, his claws extended to strike. I met his attack head-on, matching his strength with my own. The force of our collision sent shockwaves rippling through the clearing as we grappled with each other, locked in a fierce battle. The pack watched in stunned silence as we clashed, neither of us willing to back down. For long moments the outcome hung in the balance, but finally I pinned him beneath me. His struggles weakened as the reality of defeat loomed over him. "Listen to me, Zach," I growled, my voice rough with exertion. "Kela is off limits. If you ever speak of her in such a manner again, I will not hesitate to end you. Do you understand?" I didn't wait for his response. With a final glare, I shifted back to human, my muscles still coiled with tension, and strode away from him, leaving him to simmer in his own bitterness. Just as I vanished into the house, his voice slithered into my mind like a viper's hiss, a dark promise lingering in his words. "Just wait and see what's coming for you." I clenched my jaw, refusing to let his threats unsettle me. Whatever he had planned, I would face it head-on, just as I had faced every challenge before. But for now, I had more pressing matters to attend to. As I stepped into my office, ready to make the urgent call to the council for my absence, I moved to close the door behind me. But before I could shut it completely, a hand pushed against it from the outside, halting its progress. I turned, ready to rebuke whoever was intruding, but my words died on my lips as the door swung open to reveal Bonita standing there, completely naked, a common sight among werewolves. I gave her a quick glance before moving toward my desk, reaching for my phone. "What business do you have in my office, in that state?" I asked. She didn't seem deterred by my question. Instead, she walked toward me, her gaze raking over my naked form with intense scrutiny. "I came to thank you for earlier," she said, her voice low and husky with anticipation. "You mean when I saved you from Damien's attack?" I clarified cautiously. She nodded, a sly smile playing on her lips. "That's right," she said, standing dangerously close to me. "Today, you showed me that you do care for me, that you feel something for me. You just didn't want to admit it. Am I right? Deep down, you knew I was the right mate for you. Even though the moon goddess didn't pair us, I can still be your Luna." "Are you done?" I asked, trying to move away from her, but she pressed herself against me, her body warm and insistent. "Not really," she whispered, her breath hot on my skin. "Why is she pressing onto you like that?" My wolf's voice echoed in my head, jealousy and anger intertwining. "Why are you letting her? That is our mate's body. She's the only one with access. Not her. Get her out of here," he demanded, pacing agitatedly within me. I grabbed Bonita's hands and pulled her off me, my grip firm but controlled. "Listen to me, and listen well. What I did back there, I did because you're my pack member. It's the same thing I would have done for any other member of this pack. As for you becoming my Luna, stop imagining it because it's never going to happen. I have a mate, someone I have come to accept into my heart, and I am not willing to let her go. Bonita's eyes flashed with a sudden fierce anger. She took a step back, her expression hardening. Her earlier seductiveness evaporated, replaced by a cold, sharp edge. You think you've got it all figured out, don't you, Ralph? She spat, her voice trembling with fury. Fine. Reject me all you want, but don't you dare blame me for whatever happens next. With those ominous words hanging in the air, reminiscent of her brother's threats, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The force of it echoed through the room, leaving a tense silence in its wake. I took a deep breath, trying to dispel the lingering tension. Returning to my desk, I picked up the phone and dialed Alexander's number, each ring heightening my anticipation. As soon as the call connected, his voice was stern as he urgently spoke, cutting through my thoughts. Ralph, there's a problem, he said without preamble. We need you here immediately and bring the human with you.
Bonita's point of view.
Rage simmered beneath my skin as I left Ralph's office. The rejection stung more than I cared to admit, and jealousy clawed at my insides, making my wolf restless. Hearing him say he's let that worthless human into his heart only fueled my anger. How could he choose her over me? Why does he always do this to me? Why does he always have to hurt my feelings? From the beginning, he hated that human to the core. Now, what changed the beast in him? What? I shouted, anger getting the better of me as I pushed the flower pots lined on the wall side, sending them crashing to the ground. The sound of breaking pottery was oddly satisfying, but it did little to quench my fury. Without thinking, I found myself heading towards his room, where I knew she was resting. Each step was driven by a dark urge, an impulse to end the source of my pain. Her. She was the obstacle. She was the reason Ralph couldn't see me for who I truly was. My thoughts twisted with the possibility of what I might do once I reached her, forgetting that I faked my apologies. It would be so easy, a swift end to her. As I approached the room, a low growl escaped my throat. The door was just within reach, my hand extending towards the handle. But before I could touch it, a firm grip yanked me back. I turned to find my mother, her eyes blazing with anger. "What do you think you're doing, Bonita?" she demanded, her voice a low, threatening whisper. I tried to pull away, but her grip tightened. "Let me go," I hissed, my voice trembling with suppressed fury. Her gaze bore into mine, unyielding. "I know what you're feeling, but this is not the way. Hurting her won't bring you what you want. It will only destroy you." "Why do you care so much about her?" I spat, my voice a mix of frustration and desperation. She took my hand firmly and dragged me down the hallway, her grip tight. We walked in tense silence until she led me into an empty room, closing the door behind us with a decisive click. As soon as the door shut, I jerked my hand from her grip, snapping at her. "This is all your fault," I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. "If it weren't for you, that human wouldn't be here." Her eyes narrowed, her calm demeanor replaced by a flicker of irritation. "Bonita, you need to calm down." "Calm down?" I spat, my voice trembling with fury. "You brought her here. Zach believes you used your magic to bring them together. Why didn't you use that same magic to help me, your own daughter, get closer to him? You know how long I've waited for him to accept me, to see me as his Luna. But you ruined everything, Mother. You don't care about me. You never have. You've never cared about my feelings." She took a deep breath, her expression softening with a mix of frustration and empathy. "Don't say something like that. I do care about you, Bonita. This anger you're holding on to, it's not going to help you. It's only going to hurt you more." I shook my head, tears of rage and frustration welling up in my eyes. "You don't understand. Ralph is supposed to be with me. We belong together. But he can't see that because of her." She sighed again, rubbing her temples as if to ease the tension between us. But I was too damn fired up to care. "Honey, you need to understand something. It's not just about Kela. Ralph never saw you as a woman, even before his mate appeared." My glare was sharp and cutting, disbelief etched into every line of my face. "Are you really my mother?" I spat, my voice dripping with betrayal and anger. She blinked, confusion crossing her features. "What? Did you just say he doesn't see me as a woman? What am I then? A man? Her expression softened, understanding the depth of my pain. No, honey, that's not what I meant. You're a beautiful, strong woman. But Ralph? He just never saw you in that way. It's not a reflection on you. It's about his feelings, his perception. And I know it hurts, but you have to accept that. No, you're wrong, Mother. I will make him see me. I will make him love me, and I'll do it my way. Her patience finally snapped. Why are you making this so hard, Bonita? For God's sake, you're a werewolf. You know better that a mate bond isn't an easy thing to play with. If you want a mate that bad, go out and find him. I'm very certain he's out there yearning to find you. But you're just keeping yourself in one place, fixated on a man who has already found his mate. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. My eyes blazed with fury as I gave her a death glare before storming out, my rage barely contained. As I crossed to Ralph's room, where Kela was resting, I halted for a minute, glaring at the door with evident anger before bolting away. As I walked towards my room, my thoughts seething with rage, I opened a mind link with Zach. Where are you? I demanded. Zach's reply was curt and dismissive. I'm busy. I don't fucking care, I shouted through the mind link, my anger barely contained. We need to talk, and we need to talk now. There was a moment of silence before he replied, Fine, meet me in my room. I stormed into my room, slamming the door behind me. The rage coursing through my veins was almost unbearable. I needed to release it somehow. I quickly pulled on some clothes, not bothering to check if they matched, and headed out to meet Zach. The walk to his room did little to cool my anger. By the time I arrived, he was slipping a shirt on with a scowl on his face. The moment I entered, I flipped out in anger, not caring who might overhear. I want to kill that human. I want her out of my way. You said you would take care of her, but it looks like you can't. Zach's eyes flashed with anger, and before I could react, he lunged at me, grabbing me by the throat. He snarled, his voice low and dangerous. Who the fuck are you to talk to me like that? I struggled for breath, clawing at his hand, my vision starting to blur. Just as I thought I might black out, he released me, and I collapsed to the ground, coughing hard. He growled, his anger palpable. You want her dead, huh? The last time you tried that, what happened? Ralph brought her back to life. After everything you made me do, she didn't die. Did you forget I lost my man because of it? He killed him before the whole pack because you were unable to do it cleanly. Now you want to kill her again. How exactly? I sat down on the cold floor in surrender, the weight of his words hitting me hard. Now, what should I do? I have to come up with something that would be effective, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Zach raked his fingers through his hair, pacing the room in frustration. That's one problem, but we have an even bigger one. She's pregnant. I jolted up, walking over to him in shock. Did I hear you wrong? She's what? Zach stopped pacing and looked at me with a mixture of anger and resignation. Are you deaf? He snapped. She's fucking pregnant with Ralph's child. This complicates things even more. I stared at him, my mind reeling from the revelation. The fire of my anger was momentarily doused by the sheer shock of the news. Pregnant? I whispered, the word feeling foreign and heavy on my tongue. Zach's anger flared even more. This means all my plans are in vain. It means one thing. I won't be able to get what I want. And you have no chance of owning him. But that, I couldn't care less. It was my turn to pace around the room, biting my nails as I thought hard. This revelation changed everything, and I needed a new plan. Does Ralph know about it? I finally asked, stopping to look at him. I'm not sure, he replied, his voice tight. If he knew, he would have told the pack. So I think he has no idea. I eyed him suspiciously. How did you know she's pregnant, though? And how sure are you? Zach didn't hesitate. I have Dahlia at my fingertips for any information I want. Where is that witch? I demanded. That information is for me alone, he said, his tone final. I huffed, frustration bubbling inside me. Our mother is a powerful witch, but she doesn't care about us. But another powerful witch under your control could help with what I have in mind. Zach furrowed his brows, suspicion evident in his eyes. What are you getting at? That witch can cast a spell that would erase Ralph's memories from when he met the human, I said, my voice low and determined. We have to act quickly, though, before he finds out about her pregnancy. Zach's eyes widened in shock, but then a calculating look took over. That's risky, Bonita, he cautioned. Memory spells are dangerous, especially ones that involve altering someone's past, especially for alphas. It could backfire. I don't care, I said fiercely. I can't lose him to her, Zach. This is my only chance. So are you. What do you say about it? Zach thought for a moment, clearly weighing the risks and benefits. Finally, he turned his attention to me. All right, I'll get in touch with Dahlia, but if we do this, we need to be prepared for anything. There's no turning back once we start.
Kela's POV.
My head throbbed as I tried to shake off the lingering dizziness. The room spun, and a wave of nausea surged through me. Steadying myself against the bathroom sink after throwing up countless times, I took deep breaths to calm the turmoil in my stomach. What in the good Lord happened to me? Is this the aftermath of the crazy voice I heard? The werewolf-vampire fight I saw? Or maybe it's because I jumped out of the car and didn't get proper treatment. A gentle knock on the door snapped me back to reality. Kela, can I come in? It was the old woman. I hesitated, but then nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yes, come in. The door opened and her concerned face appeared. She hurried to my side, her eyes scanning me with worry. How are you feeling, dear? A bit better. Just tired and nauseous. She placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, guiding me gently but firmly away from the sink. Come on, let's get you back to bed, she said softly. I nodded, leaning on her for support as we made our way out of the bathroom and towards the bed. Each step was an effort, my legs feeling weak and unsteady. When we reached the bed, I tried to lie down, but Isabella stopped me with a firm but gentle touch. Wait, not yet, she said, reaching out for a bowl on the table filled with a brownish liquid that looked anything but appetizing. You need to take this first. I looked at the liquid skeptically, then glanced at her suspiciously. It's medicine, Kela, she assured me, her voice gentle but insistent. It's not the best tasting thing in the world, but it will work wonders, I promise. It will help with nausea and dizziness. With a sigh, I took the bowl from her, the earthy smell of the herbs making my stomach churn even more. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the taste, and then downed the liquid in one go. The bitterness hit me instantly, and I fought the urge to gag, my face contorting in discomfort. My throat burned as I forced myself to swallow, each gulp feeling like a minor victory against my rebelling body. Good girl, she said, her tone soothing. She took the empty bowl from me and set it aside. I know it's awful, but you'll feel the effects soon. She helped me into bed, tucking the covers around me with care. Rest now, she said softly. The medicine will start working soon. You'll feel better in no time. I heard her leaving, closing the door silently behind her. The room fell into a peaceful hush, but I struggled to rest, the bitter taste of the medicine still lingering in my mouth. Frustrated, I reached for my phone, Cora's phone, needing a distraction. As I moved, I realized I was starting to feel much, much better. The dizziness had faded, and my stomach felt more settled. I dialed Auntie's number, but there was no answer. Sighing, I decided to send a text message instead. Hi, Aunt. Is everything okay? With that sent, I decided to go through Cora's phone, looking for something to occupy my mind. I opened the gallery, scrolling through the photos, when my heart stopped. There, in the midst of the images, was a soundless video of Zach and Ethan in a deep conversation. What business could Zach have with Ethan? A knot of unease tightened in my stomach as I wondered if their meetup had something that had been going on back home. I needed answers. Determined, I decided to confront Zach about the video. I got up, feeling stronger by the minute, and headed for the door. As I walked down the stairs to the second-floor hallway, I caught sight of Bonita walking hurriedly, her expression stormy. Curious and concerned, I quickened my pace, trying to catch up with her. Bonita, I called out, but she didn't seem to hear me. I tried again, louder this time. Bonita, wait up. She ignored me, her steps becoming more hurried. Just as I was about to reach her, she entered a room and slammed the door shut, the sound making me flinch. Undeterred, I decided to follow her inside, worried about what might be upsetting her. She had wanted us to be friends, after all. I approached the door and hesitated for a moment before placing my hand on the handle. As I was about to turn it, I heard her loud, angry voice from inside, freezing me in place. "I want to kill that human." Her words sent a chill down my spine. My mind raced, wondering who she could be talking about. Could she possibly mean me? I'm the only human in this mansion. Was she lying when she said she wanted to make things right between us? Fear and shock battled within me as I stood there, paralyzed. Just as I was about to retreat, I heard another voice, Zach's. Slowly, I removed my hand from the door handle, taking a cautious step back to avoid making any noise. Every instinct told me to flee, but I couldn't ignore the nagging need to know more, and boom, I heard everything. Shock and fear swallowed me whole, paralyzing my thoughts and driving my body into autopilot. What on earth did I just hear? I took quick, panicked steps away from the door, away from their venomous words. My mind spun with the implications of what I had overheard as I rushed away. As I reached the last step leading to Ralph's room, the dizziness returned with a vengeance. This time, it was driven by fear and the overwhelming surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. My vision blurred, and my legs gave out from under me. I felt myself falling, the cold rush of air and the sickening anticipation of hitting the stairs overtaking me. But just as I was about to tumble down, strong hands grabbed me. "Got you," Ralph's familiar voice said, his tone filled with concern. He pulled me into his arms, steadying me before carrying me effortlessly into his room. He sat me gently on the bed, his eyes scanning my face for signs of injury or distress. "Kela, what happened?" His voice was urgent, his brow furrowed with worry. I tried to speak, but the words stuck in my throat, tangled with the terror still gripping my heart. His concerned gaze searched mine, and I struggled to find the courage to speak. The weight of what I had overheard pressed down on me like a suffocating blanket, each word burning on the tip of my tongue. But as I opened my mouth to tell him everything, to reveal the truth about Zach and Bonita's sinister intentions, and the horrifying revelation of my supposed pregnancy, doubt clawed at my resolve. What if he was just like Bonita, deceiving me with false apologies and hidden agendas? What if his all-over sudden gentleness was just a facade, masking darker intentions beneath? The thought made me hesitate, my words faltering as uncertainty gripped me. His urgent question hung in the air, demanding an answer, but I found myself unable to speak, paralyzed by the fear of betrayal. Before I could gather my thoughts and form a response, his voice broke through my turmoil again. "Where were you going?" he asked, his tone soft. I blinked as I grasped for an excuse, my mind racing to concoct a plausible lie to deflect his questions. I was just thirsty, I stammered, my voice wavering with uncertainty. I was going to get some water. Ralph studied me intently, his gaze piercing through the flimsy facade of my excuse. I felt my heart pound harder with each passing moment, a nervous flutter in my chest as his eyes lingered on me. Then, to make matters worse, his gaze dropped to my belly, lingering there for a heartbeat too long. Panic surged through me, my mind racing with a million questions and fears. Did he know? If what Zach said is true that I am pregnant, could Ralph somehow sense the baby inside me? But before I could dwell on the thought, he spoke again, his voice pulling me back from the brink of panic. "Well, go get changed," he said, his tone gentle. "We are going somewhere." As I settled into the car, the uncertainty of where he was taking me gnawed at my mind. I struggled with whether or not to trust him and tell him the truth. He was silent as he drove, and the quiet stretched between us, thick with unspoken words. His earlier concern was genuine, but my doubts lingered. He glanced over at me, his eyes softening with concern. "Is something bothering you, mate?" he asked, his deep voice breaking the silence. "Is there something you want to ask or tell me?" His question hung in the air, and I felt a surge of anxiety. After a long pause, I finally found my voice. "Yes, I do have something to tell you. A lot, actually. But for some reason, I'm not sure if I should trust you." To my surprise, he let out a laugh, a genuine, hearty sound that made my heart flutter. It was the first time I'd seen him laugh like that, not forced or strained. "Kela," he said, his eyes twinkling with amusement, "if you feel like whatever is on your mind is worth not telling, then let it be until you're ready. But if it has anything to do with death or danger, I'd appreciate knowing so I can see what I can do about it." His words sank in, and I found myself feeling a bit lighter, even if only for a moment. My eyes averted back to the road, and I spotted a store up ahead. Can we stop for a moment? I need to grab something real quick to eat. I half expected him to refuse, as he often did with my requests, but to my surprise, he nodded and pulled over. Be quick, he said, reaching for his wallet and handing me his bank card. Do you want me to get you anything? I asked, trying to hide my surprise. He shook his head. No, I'm fine. Just be quick. I nodded and got out of the car, my heart racing as I made my way into the store. Glancing around to ensure he hadn't followed, I rushed to the pregnancy test section. With trembling hands, I grabbed a test and, as an afterthought, a bag of chips as an excuse in case he asked what I had bought. I paid quickly and asked the cashier for the bathroom. Once directed to the restroom, I hurried inside, my heart pounding. I locked the door and pulled down my jeans, positioning myself over the toilet with the test in hand. Since I didn't have a container to collect my urine, I let out small amounts directly onto the test. When I was done, I set it aside and fixed my clothes, waiting impatiently for the results. Minutes passed like hours. My hands trembled as I reached for the test. My breath caught in my throat as I saw the result. Positive. I was truly pregnant. A wave of conflicting emotions crashed over me. Shock, fear, disbelief, and a strange undercurrent of acceptance. My heart pounded as I stared at the test, the two bold lines confirming what I had dreaded. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. Pregnant? I was actually pregnant. Thoughts spiraled in my mind, the implications overwhelming. What did this mean for me? For Ralph? For our already complicated relationship? Most importantly, how would I navigate the dangers surrounding us with this new life growing inside me? My mind raced, replaying Zach's and Bonita's sinister conversation. What I don't understand is why Dahlia, being the powerful witch she is, lets Zach use her like she's nothing. I just hope she doesn't go along with their plans. If that happens, it'd be the end of me. How will I ever raise a werewolf child in a society of humans? What if they shift in the middle of class and startle the other kids? It would mean one thing. My child would become an experiment in a lab. The thought made me shiver. I have to tell Ralph about this pregnancy and about Zach and Bonita's plans. If I don't, I'll never forgive myself. I shoved the test into my pocket, straightened up, and took a deep breath. I grabbed the bag of chips and exited the restroom, my mind still spinning. Ralph was waiting in the car, engaged in a phone call, his expression cold as ice, sending shivers down my spine as I approached. I forced a smile, hoping to hide the storm brewing inside me. Got what I needed, I said, sliding into the passenger seat. Did you get enough? He asked after ending his call, glancing at the bag in my hand. I nodded, not trusting my voice to remain steady. Yeah, I'm good. He started the car without another word, and we drove in silence. His uneasy mood made me restless. As the miles stretched on, I struggled with whether to ask him what was wrong or to tell him about my pregnancy and the sinister plans Zach and Bonita had discussed. His expression was stony, his jaw set tight, making me wonder if Zach and Bonita's plans were already in motion and affecting him. Ralph looked angry and troubled, more so than usual. I couldn't take the silence any longer. Ralph, can we talk? There's something important. Not now, Kela. He cut me off, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. The tension in the car was thick. Please, Ralph, it's really important. He ignored me, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. My frustration grew. Was Zach's influence already showing? Ralph, can you stop the car for a moment? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't respond, his eyes never leaving the road. Ralph, stop the car, I repeated, my voice sharper this time. He finally spoke, his tone harsh. The council is waiting for us. We don't have time for your endless requests. Anger flared inside me. Stop the fucking car, I snapped. That fucking council can wait. This is important too. Ralph's eyes flashed with anger, but he finally pulled over to the side of the road. The car came to a sudden halt, and he turned to me, his expression a mix of irritation and curiosity. What is it, Kela? He demanded. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Ralph, are you all right? Is something wrong? He opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. Remember what you told me last night? You want us to start something real, and the foundation of that is trust. As my man, I have the right to know what's bothering you because I'm worried. Okay, I'm human and might not be able to help with wolf-related issues, but I might help you in other ways. So, Ralph, is something wrong? Is it about the phone call or something else? Or the council? Ralph stared at me for a moment, his expression softening. He reached out, his warm hand cupping my cheek. I leaned into his touch, pressing a gentle kiss onto it before he pulled away. It's about the call, he admitted. It was Dahlia. She told me something that triggered my mind. She was quick, but it stuck with me. I don't want to believe it until I meet with her. I swallowed hard, nervousness knotting my stomach. Did she tell you about my pregnancy and the memory spells that Zach and Bonita want her to perform? Ralph's brows twitched in surprise as he stared at me. I was going to tell you everything, but didn't know how to start because I thought you wouldn't believe me. After overhearing their plans and everything, I wasn't sure if I could trust you too. Before he could respond, his phone rang. He answered it with a dismissive response, 3 minutes away, and then hung up before driving again. Don't ask me about this matter for now until I meet with Dahlia. We will talk about ourselves afterward, okay? Okay, I replied. The 3-minute drive felt like an eternity. My heart pounded with every passing second, the silence between him and I thick and oppressive. I couldn't help but think about everything. The pregnancy, the plans of Zach and Bonita, and what was in Ralph's mind. Each thought seemed to make the silence even heavier. We pulled into a wide, long driveway lined with towering trees, their leaves whispering secrets in the wind. The enormity of the place struck me first. The gates were wrought iron, intricate and formidable, opening up to a sprawling estate that seemed to stretch on forever. Is this where the council lives? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, my eyes wide with awe. Ralph nodded, his expression inscrutable. Yes. I gaped at the vast expanse before me. It felt like stepping into another world, a hidden city. The estate stretched out in all directions, surrounded by dense forests that seemed to guard it. Massive, ancient trees lined the driveway, their branches forming a canopy overhead, casting dappled sunlight on the ground. Elegant, sprawling mansions dotted the landscape, connected by winding paths and lush gardens. Each building was made from dark stone, giving them a timeless, almost mystical look. In the distance, I saw a grand hall with towering spires reaching towards the sky, a testament to the council's power and authority. The air was thick with an unexplainable aura of magic and strength, making me feel small and insignificant. My thoughts raced. This was where Ralph's loyalties lay, where decisions about werewolf matters are made. As we pulled up to the main entrance, I saw a familiar face, an old council member who once asked me to sleep with Ralph, standing with other unfamiliar old men and one woman in her early 40s. Why do they look like they want to pounce on me the moment I step out of the car? I asked Ralph. I dare them, Ralph said as he stepped out, came around to my side, opened the door for me, and took my hand. Together, we walked towards the waiting council members. As we approached them, the old man turned toward the woman and gestured to her to take me with her, as they wanted to talk to Ralph alone first. And as the woman reached out her hand to take mine, Ralph swiftly stepped in front of me, his stance protective and assertive. His eyes blazed with a fierce intensity as he addressed them. If any of you dare lay a hand on my mate, it will be the last thing you ever do, he growled, his voice low and dangerous. The familiar council member, now standing beside the woman, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Instead, the woman let out a light laugh, her eyes twinkling with amusement. We know better than to mess with Alpha's mate, Alpha Ralph, she said, her tone respectful yet laced with a hint of playfulness. Your mate is safe with me. No one will touch her. Ralph's expression softened slightly at her words, though his protective instincts remained on high alert. With a nod, he reluctantly released me, pressing a quick kiss onto my forehead before stepping back. As they slipped away for their private conversation, I couldn't shake the unease that settled in my stomach. Watching him disappear with the council members, I turned my attention back to the woman who stood before me, her demeanor calm yet authoritative. Kela, right? She said, her voice smooth like silk as she extended her hand towards me. I'm Cecilia. I hesitated for a moment before accepting her hand, giving it a firm shake. Yes, I'm Kela. Nice to meet you. Cecilia's eyes held a depth of wisdom and power that sent a shiver down my spine. Cecilia led me inside the grand house and through the mind-blowing corridors. As we walked, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, every step echoing in the cavernous space. My palms grew clammy, nerves fluttering in my stomach like a trapped bird. As we entered a spacious chamber, my eyes were immediately drawn to a group of women seated around a large wooden table. They all rose to their feet, their eyes assessing me from head to toe. I could feel their scrutiny like a physical weight, making my palms sweat despite my efforts to appear calm and composed. Cecilia cleared her throat, drawing their attention fully to her. "Ladies, may I have your attention, please?" she said, her voice commanding yet inviting. She called Kela the Moonrise Pack Luna, but she's not yet. One of them said, but Cecilia interjected. "She's soon to be one," Cecilia said firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. A few of the women stepped forward, their expressions more welcoming. "You've been the talk of every pack for weeks now. It's a pleasure to finally meet you." I forced myself an awkward smile. As the women pulled me to sit with them, their eager faces crowded around me, their curiosity palpable. I tried to remain calm, but the intense scrutiny was overwhelming. Cecilia smiled, seeming pleased by their enthusiasm. "Excuse me, ladies, I'll be back in a moment," she said, before slipping out of the room, leaving me alone with the group. The moment the door closed behind her, the women turned to me, bombarding me with questions all at once. "What are your full names?" "Where are you from?" "How did you and Alpha Ralph meet?" "Are you going to betray us to humans?" "Are you a good human?" The rapid-fire questions made my head spin. I took a deep breath, trying to answer each one as best as I could. "My full name is Kela Rivera," I began, trying to project confidence despite the knot of nerves in my stomach. "Ralph and I met by chance, really. It was one of those unexpected encounters that you don't see coming, but changes your life forever." Their eyes widened with interest, and I could see them leaning in even closer, hanging on to my every word. "And no, I would never betray you to the humans," I continued, my voice steady but earnest. "I understand how important secrecy is, especially for Ralph and his pack. As for being a good human, I can only hope to prove myself to you." The women exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. One of them, a tall woman with striking silver hair, leaned forward. "And as the Luna of the Moonrise Pack, how do you plan to protect your mate's pack in his absence, Kela?" The question made my mind spiral into a frenzy. How could I protect the pack? How am I supposed to answer that? Before I could even form a coherent answer, the door burst open and Ralph stormed in, his expression dark and stormy. He didn't acknowledge the women's greetings, his eyes fixed on me. Without a word, he grabbed my hand and pulled me up from my seat, his grip firm but not painful. The women fell silent, their curiosity now mixed with confusion and apprehension. Ignoring their murmurs and whispered questions, he dragged me out of the room, his pace quick and determined. My heart pounded as we made our way through the winding corridors, his urgency unsettling. As we neared the car, the council members called out to him, their voices demanding attention. Ralph didn't stop. He didn't even glance their way, his focus entirely on reaching the car. When we finally arrived, he yanked open the passenger door and urged me inside. I opened my mouth to ask what was wrong, but he cut me off sharply. "Later, Kela." His tone left no room for argument. I slid into the seat and he hurried to the driver's side. As he started the car, I couldn't help but look back. The council members stood in a tight cluster, their faces a mix of concern and frustration. But what caught my eyes was an old, gray-haired woman, very old, standing apart from the rest, her gaze locked on me. The look of utter disgust she directed my way sent a shiver down my spine.